That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sport Cat. I'm here tonight, ready for another edition of the Paranormal Guys, coming to you live from I guess it's a barn loft hidden in the East Tennessee hills. So we got a great show lined up tonight. Let's see who we got hiding backstage here. My beautiful sidekick, Miss Amanda. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. And then we have a great guest tonight. We have two great guests tonight. The first guest, he's also from East Tennessee. Thomas has got some spooky stories, and he tells me he scares people. So hopefully he won't scare me too bad. But let's bring him out and let him talk about some stuff that he knows about. And hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, Thomas. Thank you for being on the show.
Howdy. Welcome to the show. We're glad you're here. I got to figure out how to get my computer organized. Just don't mind me. So, Thomas, you're right up the street from me in Greenville. Is that right? Bristol.
I'm actually between Bristol and Greenville in a nice little secluded area called Fall Branch. It's away from the people.
Nice.
I like away from the people.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So, Thomas, first off, you are what you described as a scare actor. Tell us a little bit about that.
I am. I'm actually representing their merch tonight because it's chilly down in the studio. But I portray myself as a character called Dan Deadly for the Bloody Fork Haunt in Bristol, Virginia. Wonderful group of people to work with. I can't talk highly enough about them. I actually took a hiatus from my own podcast to help them this year build the Bloody Fort. They moved to a new location from their old one. This was their 7th year being up and going, and I mean, I can't tell you. It's a really emotional feeling, and it's hard to describe and put into words when you find 30 to 40 people who take the same interest and same passion in their interest as you do and put it into creating something greater than yourself. And that is exactly what Bloody Fork has become, in my opinion. It's become almost a movement. We refer to ourselves as the Blood Family. It's almost mafia-esque, you know. Don't ask too many questions about that.
I'm familiar with Granger County. I got it.
No, it really is a great way to relieve childhood trauma on unsuspecting people who paid to receive all that from you. It's great. It's the only touchable haunt in the Tri-Cities area, which is Bristol, Johnson City, and Kingsport. I absolutely love it. It's just a great way to keep the spooky season truly spooky. And that's what a lot of people have tried to water Halloween down, but there's a lot of reference into the paranormal and Halloween that people forget. We dressed up as ghosts to scare the ghost. And it plays into all my love of the paranormal.
So how does this work, Thomas? Is it like a haunted house where people come, but that you have different experiences?
So we, at the Bloody Fork, we do something that a lot of people don't do. We try to change the theme every year. Like I said, my character is Dan Deadly. This year at the haunt, my character's backstory was I was a grave robber who got caught one day digging up a freshly buried person. Her husband caught me, shot me, killed me. And as my soul crawled up from the ground, he buried me over his wife so nobody would know he killed me. And as my soul crawled up from the ground, death then punished me I had to protect and watch over the graves. Well, then it became, now I'm a vampire hunter on top of that. And it just, every day is an evolution. You really can't come into one character until the end of the season. You finally find your niche, and then it's like, oh, it's over.
That's great. So where does this take place? Like, I know we have a thing here where it's in the woods and you walk through the woods and
It is a haunted trail. It's not an actual haunted house. It's a haunted trail. And this year she added a corn maze to it, so you actually get two attractions for the price of just the haunted trail. But it's, I want to say, on 28 acres of land, and we've only started to scratch the surface, and we're expanding it next year, making it even larger than it was this year. And like I said, we had close to, I think, 30 actors this year.
that's
So with
amazing.
us expanding it, it's just going to get that much bigger, that much more energy is being put into it. It's, I only, I don't, I didn't hear any complaints this year, which is kind of weird because, people love, misery loves company. And this year, everybody I've talked to about it that's come out of the haunt was like, oh my God, y'all were amazing. You scared my wife. Nobody scares my wife. It's like, you know, we appreciate it. We're doing what we love, on top of the fact of some of us might be, sadists, masochists. Some of us like to abuse. Some of us like to abuse. I don't know how else to put it. We get a strange pleasure out of scaring people.
Definitely. I enjoy scaring people.
It's the best time in the world.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. So how
One of
long
the
have you been
viewer
doing this?
asked, I was going to ask also, one
Oh,
of the viewers asked if it was year round.
yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, currently it's not year round. Now Star, who runs it, she's an amazing person. She works another job, and maybe one day we will get to a point where we can do it year round. We're currently not there because I mean it's a lot. It takes an emotional toll on you. It takes a physical toll on you. We might get there one day, but currently we just haven't. We usually start the last weekend of September and go through to the first weekend in November, and it's usually Friday, Saturday, and occasionally there's a Sunday thrown in case we get rained out one day and you already have tickets purchased. Or
Wow. That takes a lot of time to prepare for that as well.
it does. We actually had to tear down our last location. I want to say we started end of February, beginning of March, and we literally were down to the wire, still fixing and putting the fine touches on everything. We literally made it the weekend before the last weekend, and we were still fine tuning during the production.
Yeah. It's so much work to do something like that.
It was. We had an amazing build team, though. They came out, they sacrificed their weekdays, their weekends. Um, Star bought us food on a couple occasions, and you know, a fat boy's going to show up where there's food. So anytime she said food, I was out there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I volunteered for Scarefest here in Kentucky for a few years. And even that, just being there for 8 or 9 hours a day, we were like downing Pedialyte, trying to take vitamins and keep our immune systems built up. It just really takes a toll on you.
It does, and a lot of people will come through whether they're sick or not,
Yes.
and they don't think of the effect. Like me, my character does a lot of screaming. He's really in your face. He sitting there and, oh, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for the Lord is with me. The Lord is the way, the truth, and the light. But for your damn soul, there is no light. And then I cut out the light, and doing that repetitively every night.
Yeah.
You get hoarse, and someone comes through with a cold, and next thing you know, you can't breathe. So
Yes.
you're sitting there going, like in between, and it gets hard. So I like the idea of Pedialyte, and I didn't think of
Mhm.
Pedialyte. I did a lot of Gatorade, but I hear that's not
Yeah.
as good for you as they advertise.
No, drink the Pedialyte.
Pedialyte in
Okay.
emergencies. Yeah.
Yes, emergencies. And there's also there's one liquid something, liquid IV.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
good
I
for
do
you.
do liquid IV.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, those will keep
And,
you going too.
and if you're a vitamin and herb kind of person, bilberry and elderberry is your friend when you're out in public. So
Mhm.
I do take a elderberry supplement like almost daily. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting older now, so we have to do these types of things just to go to a music festival.
Oh Lord, we took our son to go see the Dropkick Murphys,
Oh,
and the next
nice.
day I was sitting there going, my knees.
Yes. I'm like, so how much extra do we have to pay to actually have a seat?
Well, that's the worst part. We had a seat and we could have sat down, but as soon as you sit down, I'm 5'8" on a good day, depending on if I'm wearing like high heels or not. But that's beside the point. I got right behind this 6'12" person, which for those of you who don't math good, that's 7 foot. Um, and I'm just like, really? Even standing,
Yeah.
I was just like this over his head. So
Mhm.
that's always my luck. Every venue I go to, no matter what it is, I'm right behind that guy that blocks everything.
I'm the same way. Every time, the tallest person is always right in front of me. I'm like,
It's Murphy's Law. You know, whoever elected him president needs to get kicked in the knee.
Exactly. So
goodness.
I interrupted Amanda earlier. She was going to ask you, how long have you been doing this?
So I started last year, 2023, on accident. My son actually wanted to volunteer, and I took him there, and I was sitting at their little fire spot they had, and I'm doing my thing for my podcast. And Star comes up to me and goes, "Can you be a pig?" And I'm like, "Gee, that's a nice way of asking if I'm fat." Yes, I'm fat. And she's like, "No, our pig people didn't show up, and I just need someone who can start a chainsaw and wear a pig mask." It's like, yeah, I can do that. So I started last year on accident, and then it's literally become a family like that
Yeah.
quick.
You spend so much time together.
You really do. And as soon as you leave, the first thing you want to do is find someone and tell them, "Oh my God, I scared this one person," and they're like, "Oh my God, we scared this woman, and she literally started peeing herself," and it's like, "That's great." It's like the most encouragement you're ever going to get for being just the worst people.
Uh, I don't. Have you had the paramedics show up yet? That's the true test. So
None of the years I've worked have we had paramedics show up. I think someone on our security staff is a paramedic though, so I don't know that we would necessarily have paramedics show up. But we're far enough back into the woods that we can get rid of it before the news shows up,
hey,
and
that's
that's the
good.
biggest
That's
part.
good. The reason I say that is one of the original, I think it was Saw movies. I got called to a late night premiere showing of it at a theater for somebody that was in true shock. I mean,
Oh my
their
gosh.
body was actually in shock, and I'm like, how bad is this movie? I got to go see this now.
Oh, they
That's
do
like,
make you really tense. Like,
well, I mean, the original Exorcist movie, they had literally had to shut theaters down because people were having to go to the hospital with chest pains. And
Yeah,
yeah,
so
back then that was
that is
such
a
a scary
testament
movie.
of someone who actually put the energy, the time, the storyline's good, and you don't get a whole lot of that when it comes to spooky. It's jump scares. Oh, what can we do to? Uh, no.
ray blood
It,
on the
when you
screen. Yeah,
blood on the screen or a loud thud noise or suspenseful music that gets real, and then someone just, hey, I mean, The Exorcist, they hid little faces in the scenes, and subconsciously you catch onto the face, but you're not noticing it until you watch it again. It's like, I didn't notice that the first time.
yep.
Have you always been into horror movies?
I actually don't like horror movies.
Okay.
Oh,
Um, I don't like them because, okay, so I grew up in a haunted house. So I've lived in situations where you don't know what's going on. And then you see like the Amityville Horror, for example, where they're like overly exaggerating stuff getting thrown. It's like, no, it's more of a kind of like push. It's not slung across the house and shatters and the person in the next room gets a piece of glass. No, it's not that. That's too exaggerated. I'm actually the closest thing to a horror movie I've come to like is the new Conjuring movies
I love
because
those.
they're not so intense about the paranormal aspect of it.
Right,
That's closer to reality of what the paranormal is.
right.
Now, growing up in a haunted house, what type of things did you experience?
So I was always in trouble as a kid for being up past my bedtime and dragging stuff across the floor and but I was always in bed. I was asleep and they'd yell up, stop dragging stuff across the floor. And it's like, I'm in a daze going, I'm not dragging anything across the floor. Well, when I got in my teens, I started getting to where I would sleep on the couch downstairs. And I was on the couch and my mom was actually in a recliner. And one day we heard the dragging across the floor. And I said, now you tell him to take his butt to bed, mama. And she just looks at me and that's when it clicked for her. There's more in this house than just us. And it's like, I've been telling y'all, I'm not the one dragging. I'm not, it's not me. Y'all never believed me because I had two older sisters and my dad all lived in this house together. And I always got yelled at about making noise. And it's like, guys, I sleep more than y'all do. There's no way it's me doing this. But being the baby, of course, I got the blame.
Did you ever know who lived in the house before you or anything?
So we actually we built the house from a lifted house that was there before. It's a weird situation. My mom bought the property probably early 92 ish with a single wide trailer and two houses on it. Now, for some reason, we lived in the single wide trailer when there's two houses right there. But 95, 96, we decided, we're going to take this house that's literally, it's just a lifted house that wasn't quite tall enough to build anything underneath it. And we had it lifted up some more. And then we built the house that was there. And we had this door where it used to have the stairway outside that we never built stairways to. So we just called it the door to nowhere. And we did research and we tried to find the original owners and we couldn't find them to save our lives. And it's just like nobody would ever believe me that there's an old man that lives in our house. And they're like, there's no old man that lives in there. It's like I have woken up and he's sitting in the recliner in my bedroom looking at where the TV sits, but he's not watching anything, but he's there. And being 13, 14 years old, you have an overactive imagination, you're making up stories. Well, one day we're all upstairs and literally there's this door with no way to access it. And someone just starts banging on it, like knocking like the police trying to get into your house. And I'm just looking at everybody. It's like, do y'all believe me now?
Right.
And that's when they started getting picked on by the entity in the house or entities. My mom thinks there was two, one upstairs, one downstairs. But my dad still would never believe us. I mean, we tried so hard. It's like, there's something in this house. We need to figure it out. And he just wouldn't believe us. Well, one day he goes, there's no damn ghost in this house. And about the time he said that, the cabinet doors open up and vinegar rolls out into the middle of the floor. And he just looks at me, turns around and walks out. It's like, at least acknowledge it. At least say you saw this. And that's where it's like, okay, I got to figure out what this is. And about that time, Ghost Hunters came on Sci-Fi. with Jason Hughes or Halls or however you say his name, and Grant and all the, and it's like, this is where it starts. We're going to learn, we're going to watch them, and we're going to learn. Well, lesson to learn. If you're going to do paranormal investigations, don't learn from watching TV because they're not showing you everything you need to know. They're showing you the bare basics.
Yes.
And I'm going to say this. Born and raised Baptist, Christian, I believe in Jesus, I believe in God, I believe in all that. Get you a witch friend. Someone who knows the proper way to smudge, cleanse, because you're going to go into houses and you're going to walk out with energies and they're going to grab you and say, come here.
Yeah.
And they're going to smudge you with white sage, usually is the most popular. They're going to sit there and, nope, you can't come with us. Nope, nope. But
Amanda is my ghost hunter and witch, so I too grew up in a haunted house. I want no part of that scary stuff. I go out in the woods and look for Bigfoot. I want none of the things that go bump in the night thing. So
everything. I refuse to live in a world where there's no such thing as magic. I refuse.
Agreed.
And I love the idea of there being a hide and seek champion out there, just watching us from a distance, not maliciously, just watching, curious, learning how to mimic our noises so he can make the noises back at us and have us going, I know I just heard mom, but she's over there.
Yep.
And I love paranormal is my love. I love paranormal, but I also love the idea of cryptids and all that extra something like one day I am going to meet the Mothman. He doesn't know it, and he may not be ready for it. I'm going to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I'm meeting him. I might be 90 years old and senile, but I'm going to meet him.
He was actually spotted here in Winchester not long ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's where Shay lives. Yeah. It's been all over the place that they saw Mothman in Winchester.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd been seen in forever. So cool.
And that was recent. But yeah, you never know.
I start looking out for tragedies in Winchester is all I got to say. I mean,
right. I know. We have some weird stuff here in Kentucky.
In the South in general.
Yes. Yeah.
You gotta be careful though of what you try and manifest though, Thomas. So what is Wendell saying? He said he had a cousin leave his house in the middle of the night and he did not turn off lights or TV and shut the door. When we caught up with him, he said a man in a blue suit and he could see through him was at his house. Oh, interesting.
So the man in a blue suit is a common occurrence. It's like the man in the top hat. A lot of people are the fedora, not top hat, fedora. A lot of people see that. And I've never had the pleasure of seeing the man in the fedora, but it's like the woman in white. Everywhere's got a woman in white story. And it's like, is that a singular ghost? Or was white just a really common gown 100 years ago?
I think it was just common.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like interdimensional traveling ghosts just, spooking people as they go.
Glenn, you saw a woman in black, right? In the meadow.
Well, she was what they call the man in black. That's a government
The man in black. Okay.
Yeah. No, I saw the fedora in my grandmother's house in Virginia. And it was like all dark. It was this tall, broad fedora. And there was like lightning coming off of him. And yeah.
I'm of the belief that the fedora man is a psychopath, which I might be mispronouncing that because, I'm from the South and I only ever read the word. But it's basically a Grim Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's seen in so many different places. It's basically you're in his jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I could buy that. Yeah, considering the part of Virginia. I mean, it's colonial and also Civil War, a lot of stuff right in that area. So, yeah, I can see that.
That's
Well,
it.
a lot of people like to bring up Civil War and wartime battlefields, but they forget about think of how horrible stuff like the yellow fever was.
Mm-hmm.
And anywhere near a coastline was decimated by yellow fever. Being from Virginia, Richmond's got a graveyard that's just covered in like yellow wildflowers now. That is a yellow fever mass burial site. And it's like, think about how, yeah, the war is hell. I'll give it that. But think about being the child with a fever. You're hallucinating, you're sweating, everything hurts. And then it ends. You have no idea. Your soul's going to be in chaos. Now, times that by 100.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
people don't think about that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you hear stuff that goes bump in the night, but take into consideration it may just be scared itself.
Yeah.
It doesn't realize what's going on. Here we have talking picture frames, and we're walking around talking into a stone tablet as far as it knows. It thinks we're nuts, and we're breaking into its house.
Yeah, it's true that you say that. And I remember one of the ghost hunts I went on, the guy was saying, try and tell it to push the button for the flashlight and all that. I'm like, no, shouldn't we be saying something like this is a magic torch? If you push this button, the light comes up, because they don't understand 2024 lingo. I thought about that in the past.
I refrain from using stuff like the flashlight tricks and all that. Go get you those little cat balls with the lights. Because all it's got to do is make motion around it. It doesn't have to understand how it works. It just has to move it the slightest bit, and it sparks.
Yeah.
And find you a good trigger object. There's a place in Florida, Perry, Florida, called Greystone Manor, and I had not an original printing, but an older printing of one of the Winnie the Pooh books. And I put about 4 or 5 of them around me, and then I started reading Winnie the Pooh. And you'd see one would start to flicker, and then another one would start to flicker. Now, the sad part about that is anytime you're dealing with a child entity, you're running a huge risk of an attachment. And I hate watching a certain travel channel's paranormal TV show, because he swears up and down, oh, if it's a ghost and it's a child, it's a no, not everything's a demon.
Agreed.
Children die. It happens. Adults die. Some of them are angry about it. They're not all demons. And but then again, they get possessed every episode too. So I can't watch it. And it was at that time I felt the demon inside me, and I was blind with rage. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not, because you're looking dead at the camera. You know where the camera is. You're not blind with rage. You're not.
Yeah. Wendell says the last house he lived in, you could smell them cooking, and it smelled really good.
Huh.
I've smelled smells. My house, I get cigarette smoke. Just will poof appear out of nowhere. Don't know. So don't know. I vape. I don't smoke, so I don't know. And then, Thomas, I'll ask you about this, because this has happened to me twice. And a singular drop of water, just one drop of water, I would see it out of the corner of mine. It would hit my arm. It was ice cold. There was no scientific reason, no water there's no possible way for one drop of water to fall on me. Have you ever had that happen?
Okay, so I've never had the single drop of water, but I've heard it before. And a person who used to do the paranormal investigations with me was a lot smarter than I am. So when you have an entity that is removing energy from the surrounding area around it, it's just like an air conditioner. And when an air conditioner starts to get cold, the condenser will get cold. And as the humidity hits that condenser, it turns into water, and you'll have a puddle of water. So what he says that is literally an energy is trying to pull enough energy to make some form of contact or let you know in some way it's there. And it's actually the scientific chill causing a condensation, but there's no physical thing there to stop the condensation, so it just drops.
Interesting.
That's when you get like the wetness on the walls in
Mhm.
highly paranormal areas, and everybody's like, "Oh, the walls are bleeding." It's like, well, no, they're pulling the energy out of the room, making the room colder. Well, sudden temperature changes like that creates condensation, and it may feel, a little thicker, but it's just condensation. And
Interesting. That makes sense, though.
I think that's the
um,
best explanation I've heard so far, Glenn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know for a fact they'll drain batteries. I mean, just things
oh,
will
in a heartbeat.
go
Yeah.
crazy. And well, if it peed on me, it was an extremely dehydrated one. So it's one drop.
Well, that's one way to do it. I mean,
So
um,
the last
that's
time,
a lot of people.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
a lot of people don't take into consideration the science that actually goes into the paranormal. It's not just it's paranormal because we don't understand it. But as
Mhm.
soon as we understand it, it would become normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
See, I
I
like to
don't
build
remember the
bridges.
author. I'm sorry, I don't remember the author, but science fiction is science fact that we don't understand yet, and that's how I go into every paranormal investigation. Is I'm looking for any and every reason why this cannot be ghost.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you go into something like that, like with that doubt, it amps up the energy that much more because now they have something to prove. They have to prove to you they exist, not you go in there with the, oh my God, everything's a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's why show up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned to somebody that's like, oh, we go to this area, it's always haunted. And I'm like, maybe they're either annoyed with you or they're just playing with you or you're invading them or, it's like, why? I don't know. It's
Oh,
somebody else that told me that if a person was a jerk in real life, they're probably going to be a jerk in the next life too. So,
that's actually my favorite thing to do on a paranormal investigation is go to the historical society. Find out what you can about the area as a whole because just because they haunt a house, it may be the last house that is as close to original from their time.
Yeah.
They go to a familiar place. We did a paranormal investigation one time, and it was the saddest thing ever because you could tell it was children. And it's like, there's no reason children should be in this house. This was never an orphanage. It was never a school. It's it makes no sense that this many children are drawn to this house. And one of our investigators, who uh, I wish I could remember who they were. I was never an official member of any paranormal group. I always kind of did the tag along and take notes in the background. So I'm horrible with names, but they went to a historical society. They talked to whoever the bee's knees there was and found out that it's the last house for over 100 years that's still that house. And it's like, so that house has basically become a beacon. It's
Right.
still putting out all the old energy.
Hmm.
That's why you have a lot of hauntings around the old oak trees or old magnolia trees, or, it's energy that is from their time familiar. So they're drawn to it.
Yeah.
And it makes complete and total sense that if someone was less than kindly in life, in death, they're going to continue that same energy
Hmm.
because now they're dead and they're confused.
It's true.
I,
It's true.
I've got a spirit box, and I I like psychics. I'm an empath. I can feel emotions, so I can walk into a house and I like get real sick real quick on a lot of them because it's always like a confusion. It's why are you here? I don't physically see them and I don't hear them like some people do. Some people can sit in a room and have full length conversations, but I always tell people you can't use that as definitive evidence that there is a haunting because you cannot prove what you feel, what you hear, and what you see, but no one else can. You've got to be able to show evidence to back it up. But if you're going fishing and you see a dark spot, there's a good chance there's going to be fish there. So it's a good basis to start your paranormal investigation. It's just not a good way to continue it. If you're fishing in the same hole for an hour and you don't catch nothing, chances are there's not a fish. But, you got to find a good way to start somewhere. And I hate when you go places and all they ever have is, well, we had this psychic who they were writing on a piece of paper. It's like, that's great. Prove to me they're truly psychic. What steps have they ever done that proves their psychic ability? Now, I have friends who are mediums. They do actually speak to the dead. And, sometimes you're lucky enough to catch their conversation on a spirit box or even through a handheld radio that you talk through, a walkie talkie. Sometimes you are that lucky. But I've only ever experienced one ghost in, it's sad to say, 20 years now that knew it was dead.
Really?
So I've asked so many, and it's like, do you know that you're no longer on this earthly plane? And it will be silence. After having, spitfire answer back to back, it'll just be silence. I've only had one go, yeah.
Wow.
And it's like that creeped me out that it was so confident with yeah, I know I'm dead. Because it's now like, this is kind of like the kid who knows he's bigger than you and there's nothing you can do. That's why you always need a 5'3" witch. Because they coming through with that stage, they coming through with that oil, they coming through.
She's a pro wrestler too, so doesn't hurt.
We're gonna come through and ping you with all the crystals.
Right?
Lord, that's what my wife does.
Protection. Get the holy water. I'm ordained as well, so we can bless the water.
I like your way of doing it though, scientific, because when we go out in the woods looking for Bigfoot or have other experiences we can't explain, that's the first thing we do is we sit down as a team and we go, okay, what wasn't this? We reverse engineer the experience. And sometimes it's so right in your face you can't go, well, I know exactly what that was. So.
Well, it's like you said you have the smell of tobacco go through your house.
Mm-hmm.
Hang a barometer on your wall. When you smell it, look and check and see how high the humidity is. If you have hardwood floors, the smell will actually seep into the floors, and when they expand from the humidity, you'll get the smell sometimes.
Interesting.
So we had a police officer on one of the investigations I did, had a canine unit, and he would take a cigarette to the canine, have them smell the cigarette, and see if the canine walking around the house would pick up on the smell of tobacco inside the house. And sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't. So it's like, okay, well, there's a possibility that when humidity's up, it's the smell of the tobacco that's in the wall or in the floor, wherever the dog would ping on it. But a lot of times it's like, okay, we can't explain this smell, but it's here. We're all smelling it right now.
I like that. I'd never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have actually just had a lot of work done on the house, like new floors and painting and all kinds of stuff. So,
See, all that should have covered up any smell.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
new floors and new paintings and a contracting nightmare.
anytime you deal with contractors, it's a nightmare.
Yes, it is. Well, and also the energy you stir up from doing work like that can also create problems.
It does. So the house I'm currently living in, I firmly believe, I've not ever done a full-on investigation of it, but I firmly believe the house is haunted. I'm afraid to do a full-on investigation because I'm scared of what I'll find. Right now, I'm a-okay with thinking it's a little girl who passed away here long before I purchased the property, because this is actually, I rented this house from the owner before I purchased it. And he grew up in this house in the 40s. So I got to know the backstory of the house. I got to know about his sister who has special needs. And she passed away in this house. So right now it's like, okay, we're just, it's her. I'm not looking into it. I don't want to look into it any further. It's her. But it absolutely hates modern technology. I can put a stove in the house that's brand new, and within a year it's fried. But I can put a stove in here from the 1950s, which it was an old 1950s General Electric with a little push button across the top, lasted years. And it's like they hate when you take what is familiar and change it. So I've kind of made a promise to whatever else lives here that I'll only change a little bit at a time and never too drastically.
Nice.
And so far, it's kept everything else at bay.
We built a house and we built it ourselves. I mean, we dug, we did the foundation, everything ourselves, and we're pretty sure we've disturbed something. We live on the Kentucky River. Like literally, the river is running behind our trees, and nothing's out here anymore. But there used to be like a little town out here right on the river. But all that's gone now. And I asked my neighbor who's been out here a long time, I said, have you all ever like seen anything or heard things? And she said, I can't talk about it. She said, you'll have to talk to my husband. She said, but you keep it over there.
Wow.
And she was like, it's not over here. It ends right here and it is past our house and you all need to keep it over there.
Interesting.
So I'm in the same
That's
boat.
not very neighborly. All I'm going to say, that's not very neighborly of her.
So
Apparently,
I
that
know
was her
there's
pet before it was
something,
yours.
right. I know there's something here, but I'm kind of scared to dig into it and do an actual investigation.
Well, that's how all the horror movies start. You know, the dumb person who, hey, let's pull out a Ouija board and figure out what.
Oh
No,
no,
no, no,
no.
no,
I
no.
will never use a Ouija board.
I do use Ouija boards
Yeah,
on rare occasions. Like if
yeah,
something, you can tell something's trying to communicate, but just can't seem. But
yeah,
sage, crystals, 5'3", mean little witchy lady with sage who's ready. She's got the dowsing rods right there. You know,
yep.
she's watching everybody. Everybody forgets there's a key element that you need. And, you know, it's like I've been known to walk into a room, you'll turn on a light, and you will physically see that apparition. And I'll
Mhm.
just reach over and be like, let's just kill that light. What's in there? Nothing. Nope. Nope. I can feel the energy off of it. We don't want this. Nothing.
Yep.
Leave it
Our
alone.
doors are like really hard to open. You have to really pull them and they'll just open on their own. We'll see people walking across our back deck. Yeah.
I'm just, I notice now because, I'm on my phone and it's kind of stupid. So there's a chat in my little side corner, and someone asked this: you ever heard anyone call your name and nobody's near you? Okay, so in the area of Appalachia, go the opposite direction. If you hear whistling in the woods, go the
Yeah.
opposite. No,
If you hear the banjo play,
don't
Georgia.
don't respond. Don't.
Yeah,
no.
it's funny. We went out on a Bigfoot investigation, and our team has people that do the ghost stuff. They do the Bigfoot, the ET stuff. We've got everybody. And one of the guys pulled out a spirit box. Or no, the one that uses FM radio that cycles. Is that a
Spirit box.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he's sitting there and he's just kind of playing with it, not really doing anything. And we hear this plain as a day, yoo-hoo. And I turn around and look at it because I'm not the guy that likes the things that go bump in the night like that. And I go, he goes, yeah. And he switched it to AM. And a few minutes later, yoo-hoo. And he's like, all right, I'm just going to turn that off. We were in Florida.
Sometimes that's all you can do. As I try to tell people, especially in paranormal investigations, even going into a new location that you're not familiar with, if you come across something and you're not prepared, you haven't said your holy prayers, you haven't, packed your pockets full of your crystals today, you don't have your tiger's eye in your back pocket, if you don't have that barrier built up and you're in an unfamiliar location and something goes bump, go the other way. Don't investigate. You're not prepared. You're not ready for this.
Nope.
Hide behind the chainsaws, right? So.
Hide behind the chainsaws. So I've been blessed. I am around a whole bunch of witchy women. So I've got quartz crystals out the yin yang. I have tiger's eye that I try to keep in my pocket. I've got all that stuff to bless. I'm ordained through Universal Life Ministries,
Oh, that's
which
what I'm
doesn't.
ordained through. Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can do, and I still get to areas where I'll walk in and it's like something's bigger than I am. It's time to go. We're not sticking around for this.
What's one experience that really stuck with you the most? I won't just say scared you the most, but kind of got you the most.
The experience that got me the most, and I don't care who believes this story, and I don't care who doesn't believe this story, because this is my story as I lived it. And that's what a lot of people don't seem to realize when you tell them your paranormal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You can only tell the truth as you know it. So I told you about Greystone Manor earlier. I was walking up the stairs by myself, because, big brave man, this is 20 years ago before I knew half of what I know now. And when I got to the top of the stairs, if it wasn't the devil himself, it was someone who was real close to him. Because it was one of those situations where I couldn't hear anybody else around me. I couldn't hear the people downstairs, and they were loud. The room got cold, and I couldn't move backwards. I could only go forwards, which I didn't like that at all. I felt like I had my back up against the wall, and if I took a step forward, I couldn't take that step back. So I didn't like that at all. And I don't know who he was, what he was. So I call him the devil. That's all I know to call him, because he had a power that I've never experienced since, and I never experienced before. And the only thing that worked was literally opening my arms and saying the Lord's Prayer, just giving all to something else, you know. And it's not even necessarily that there's a God or Jesus. It's finding what energy brings you comfort and protects you. And for me, I'm a firm believer in all the Christian beliefs. I don't believe so much in churches anymore, because if a church was truly what they want it to be, it would be a situation where the church puts all your kids through college. It would be a community, and I feel like, but that's on everything nowadays. The community's gone everywhere.
Agreed.
Social media has killed social interaction. It really has. But I firmly believe that if it wasn't the devil, it was someone who knew the devil on first name basis. And the only thing that made it go away was when I just said, you know what? If it's my time, it's my time. I accepted it. I knew where I was going as soon as it was all said and done. So I just said, Our Father who art in heaven. And when I opened my eyes, he was gone.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
that is when I started saying, you know what? I need to figure out what I need to do to build a not only emotional barrier, but a spiritual barrier. So that when stuff like that comes at me, I can just put my hands up and say, you're not welcome. You're not allowed to touch me. And that was educational in itself. It's kind of like when you get bit by a dog, you suddenly want to learn more about the dog.
Yeah.
You want to figure out, how can I stop this from ever happening again? Because I'm going to be honest with you, there's not too much in this world that truly scares me. That had me willing to accept that I was fixing to die, because it was either accept my fate or go out even more horribly. And, I call it the devil, but it may have been God in disguise. God could have been saying, you know what, you're not necessarily living the way you need to. Let's put a little bit of fear in your heart. Because that turned me around on a lot of things. I didn't go, they call it tombstone courage. And the reason they call it that is it will get you killed. I would run into these houses. It's like, oh, there's something in here. You're big and bad, kind of like other paranormal investigators I've mentioned earlier, who go in half cocked and then act surprised when something attacks them or scratches them. It's like, you literally said, come at me.
It's true.
Yeah.
Were you on an investigation when that happened, or?
I was. It was Cross City Paranormal, I think, was the group I was with. And again, I've never been an official member of any group. I've just always kind of been that person that my mother-in-law calls me a beacon, because I go into places barefoot and I let the earth ground me. I'm attached to something beyond myself. I love wood floors because of that grounding sensation you get. And she would bring me to paranormal investigations with her. And that's kind of how I got my start actually going to paranormal investigations. Was she was, well, let's bring him. He's dumb enough to be like, hey, come at me. But as I've gotten older, it's like I've learned more of, it's okay. You can take some of my energy, but keep in mind, I keep the ability to tell you when to stop as well. When I was younger, I didn't know. It's like, I was just, okay, you want some? Come get it. I'm right here. I'm not scared. And you giving them, you're literally welcoming them to you. And I mean, chest pains. I've been pushed downstairs. I've had scratches on my back. You can't explain this stuff, and a lot of people's like, oh well, you could have scratched your back, and it's like, you're right. That's why I'll never use that as proof of the paranormal, because it could have been a splinter stuck in my shirt that caused my back to get the scratch marks. You can't say just because I got this is paranormal. That's why I'm all about the scientific method now. I believe record everything. The best thing a team can have are those little pocket notebooks. And instead of saying, did you hear that? Pull that notebook out. Write down what you heard. At the end of your investigation, get together and I heard this at about this time.
Mm-hmm.
And see how many other people had that same thing written in their book. Then it's not just I heard, it's a group of people heard, we never discussed it, and it was all about the same time.
Yeah. That's
the scientific method.
The things we do with Bigfoot, yeah.
Well, I mean, even searching Bigfoot, it's got to be scientific, or else you're just a bunch of rednecks out in the wood hooping and hollering.
Well, there is that too, but yeah.
That's like, you go out there and you have this guy, he's like, okay, I'm going to do this call. And it's like, okay, I've heard that noise in the woods. He's like, that's the Bigfoot mating call. It's like,
exactly.
So how many times Bigfoot showed up and was like, how you doing? He's like, well, never. It's like, then how do you know it's their mating call? You may have just told every Bigfoot from here to a 20-mile radius, hey, there's people in these woods. We need to go the other way.
Agreed.
It's like, you can't just call something their mating call because you assume it's their mating call.
Yeah.
You got to put there's got to be some scientific steps to it to say, hey, I heard this noise, and the next thing I know, trees were shaking in the distance, and I was hearing weird noises that I don't want to remember.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's a paranormal aspect to Bigfoot too. We haven't figured it out, but there's something else.
My dad,
with it.
God bless his heart, my dad thinks Bigfoot is either alien or interdimensional, which would still technically be a kind of alien because it's alien to our dimension, but he believes that's why Bigfoot can walk behind a tree and just vanish.
We've talked about that.
Yeah. That's not an uncommon belief.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had it literally disappear on thermal. Just literally, like, it just suddenly cloaked. It's gone. We're like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah.
Where
Bigfoot watches the Predator movies.
Could be. I don't know. Well, I mean, we were the first team. The Meadow Project. Trey Hudson wrote about it in his book. I'm chapter 13. We have a video of a portal opening, and I mean,
that's awesome.
There's no denying it's a portal, but what it is to or from, we don't know. We've had some bad experiences from that, but that's another whole story. Yeah. Two of our team members who are no longer with us accidentally stumbled in it, and we lost them on camera, and I lost them on radio. I was the comms officer. Yeah, it was but at any rate, we didn't lose them that night, but they got very sick. But yeah. So there's a lot more out there than I think we'll ever know about. And I'm not one of these that's going to say, oh, is the government hiding it from me? I just think there's things we don't know about. I mean.
Yeah.
Adam
Well, right now the government's admitting there's aliens. So if there was a Bigfoot that they knew about, they would probably say, hey, we seen them.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Well,
I
maybe
hope
they did get
eventually
predator from Bigfoot. Yeah. Who knows?
Hopefully it all comes out.
One day. It's what
Yeah.
the truth is out there. Thomas, look, I promised you I'd keep you for only about an hour, and we're pushing right at that hour. First off, you got to come back. You're great.
I appreciate that.
You and Amanda need to talk because doing a lot of research and for things that go bump in the night. So you two need to talk. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I think I just got a Facebook.
Yep, you did.
she's stalking you.
Maybe a little bit.
You know what? Like I tell everybody when they say I'm gonna become your stalker, just if you notice the milk's low in the fridge, grab a jug on your next time coming through.
Right. I'm gonna have to tell the people that pop into my messages.
As long as you don't have to get a restraining order, it's all good. So
Yes.
Nah, ain't gonna be no restraining order. That implies I call the cops. Gonna walk in my house and all you're gonna see is me sitting in a chair with a thing of Vaseline, and you ain't never coming to my house again. It's like I'll scare you to where you don't come back. I am a scare actor. That's what I do.
That's right.
I'm gonna wrench you, I promise. Chris said it was great having you. It was fascinating. It was. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your time, and I would love to have you back. And heck, we're in East Tennessee. We're not far apart. Maybe we should hang out and have a beer sometime. So,
yeah,
that sounds great.
Don't scare me.
I'll probably be in Knoxville, or I don't know when the next time I'll be in Knoxville is. I'm going to a Scare Fest market thing December 16th. So I'll have to keep you up to date on that one, and maybe we can meet up at that and laugh at all the people who swear they see stuff.
Yeah, oh man, yeah, they do the same thing in the Bigfoot world. Did you see that? Yeah, I did. It's a tree. It moved. It's the wind. So, all right, Thomas, have a great night. Thank you. Yeah, definitely, and maybe Amanda will have you over on her show sometime. She's got her own little thing going on too. So,
Two Broke Witches.
Yep.
Saw it on TikTok earlier.
He's already a fan. All right, you two can stalk each other. Thomas, have a great night. We will.
All right, you too. Thanks for having me.
All right, see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
That was great. Yes. Oh my gosh.
That was great. So. Wow.
We have some great people on here.
we do, and we got a great chat. Everybody with WDJY WRFN, thank you for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow night or next week, depending on where and how you're listening. Everybody else, hang on 1 second. We got another great guest coming up. I have to find the button to push. No, that wasn't the button. I don't know what the hell that button did. So.
Button. Who's got the button?
I'm just trying to. Oh, give me a second. Okay, that's long enough. Wrong button.
That was more music.
Well, I'm on the laptop, but not the desktop. So, everybody, WDJY WRFN, thank you for tuning in to the Paranormal Guys. This is hour 2. If you're with us live on YouTube, please come over and follow us on YouTube. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff. We appreciate you. As always, we have 2 guests every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Now, my second guest, he is coming in a pinch, and I'm so excited to have him. He is he's a producer, he's a director, he's got a good comic book story, and he's got other good stories. So let's bring him out. Adam is backstage. Adam, welcome.
Thanks. Nice to see you, Glenn. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, how's it going, Adam?
It's good. How are you guys?
Good.
All right.
Doing great. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I appreciate it so much. I've watched the trailers. I've read everything about it. You're doing a really cool documentary series. You've done many, but this one caught my eye because, well, the comic book nerd. So.
Are you? Yeah. This one's I've done a lot of adventurous and conscious stuff in the Himalayas and Kazakhstan and reservations of Native Americans and things. So this one's a little different. It's got a little more pop to it, a little more hook, with the hidden family secret and 300,000 comic books and a Superman #1. So happy to tell you everything about it and maybe even talk about paranormal stuff as well.
Oh yes, please. So the way the story, as I read it or have read it, is that basically this was a friend of yours.
Yeah.
And he, I guess, inherited this would be the right word.
He did, yeah, in many ways. He inherited the legacy of his father, the conditioning of his father. I mean, the whole family did. It really tore them apart, his obsessive collecting and hoarding, really. I mean, especially if you're a collector and you know how people collect, he wasn't doing it in the normal way. But yes, he did. When his father passed in 2020, Darren inherited the collection, 300,000 comic books, a Superman #1, which was not graded at the time, so they didn't know. They didn't really know what was in the collection for 40 years because he would put it in boxes and just put it away. They never read the books together, nothing. And, that's difficult for a kid to keep a secret for 40 years. Your friends are coming over. What's in that room? Nothing. What about the basement? Nothing. What about that room? Nothing. 4 or 5 rooms. So it's I didn't know about it. We were friends in high school. We played soccer together. I didn't know his father suffered from Asperger's. It was diagnosed later in life, but it contributed to the kind of the obsessive behavior as well as some of the non-recognizing of emotions of his son and things like that. But yeah, we had no idea. And then, I've been making docs for 15 years. And then he calls me up and says, "Hey, by the way, what do you think? Is this a good story?" And I said, yeah, I think so. And let me come out and at least check, go home for a weekend and interview you guys and see the old house before it sells. And that actually becomes a lot of episode 1 was just me with a camera and the family. And I really love it. It's very intimate, verite in that first episode where you kind of really feel the backstory and the creepiness of this old house where, to talk paranormal, like he thought aliens were, at the end, he thought aliens were going to come and kind of take his books. And I mean, he was starting to lose it a little. He wasn't like that in his normal life, but he started to think aliens were inhabiting his younger son and were trying to take the books. And I mean, who knows? Maybe they were. These are precious things. You never know. But he did want to be shot up into a UFO with his books. He really didn't want to give them away. He didn't want to ever sell them. He said, "I want to go when I die. I'd like to go to a UFO with my books." So, like many collectors, did not want to part with these collectibles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, from the video, there's so many.
Yeah, yeah, 3 shipping containers full. Now, they were just in the house, but yeah, Darren, the main character, created a whole, fortress of solitude, and so now there's 3 shipping containers full of comic books. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
That's a lot. I feel bad about like having 2 boxes in my closet. So.
I know. I don't like to collect things. I like to keep things simple, so it's strange. Yeah.
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 I collect hats. That's about it.
Do you?
I hope you don't have that many cats.
Oh, hats. Okay.
Yeah.
I heard
not
cats
cats.
also.
Yeah, I was like a crazy cat lady, but I was like, oh God,
Dogs would not be happy about that. Yeah, I have things under my bed full of hats, and I can pull them out and pick out a specific hat for each day.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. You use them and you show them off. That's cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's the different thing about a comic book. You don't want to pull it out. I mean, if you're collecting it, because you're going to get fingerprints on it or bent corners, and these are the ways they grade them. So, did he ever read these, or did they just come sealed? And
it's a great question. I mean, I have a feeling he read some, and I know he got into the comic book collecting. This is Darren's father, Dale, when he was in college, just debating who had what powers and what would win. Would the cube beat this character and that character? And his father, was graduated top of his class, University of Michigan Law School. So loved to debate, very verbally astute, could really hang like that. So I know he loved that part of it, and did have his own kind of like Cheers, like a certain comic book store that he would go to, and that's where he got his books from. So there was a little bit of it in terms of reading and looking at them, but for the most part, it was quantity and hoarding and just putting them in a box and putting them away. If he had I think 30 Ghost Rider ones. He had 100 Star Wars ones when they started to unpack things. So a Star Wars one could be $1,000 book, but 100 of them, that's $100,000, right? Ghost Rider one, I'm not sure what that's coming in at. These are high grade. Everything was really, really pristine quality. For those that don't know, the grade and the quality really means a lot here. The Superman, when it did get graded at a 7.0, it made it at the time. There was 2 8.0s and 2 7.0s, Darren's being one of them. So second best book you could have in the world of a Superman #1. And that's a very rare book, right? This is a very, very rare piece of pop culture, which is why people pay $4 million. And so he had a lot, like even a giant size X-Men one. In episode 4, we ended up hearing the story of how we got 10 of those, I think, at least 8. And that's a book they bought for $40 in around 1982 and is now worth $25,000 each book. And each, high grade for a comic book, a 9.8 giant size X-Men one. And apparently it was like, the owner of the comic book store realized he had a case of these, now maybe 7 years old. So, okay, they're $40 at that point. And Darren's dad, Darren's dad wanted all of them, 200 books. And the guy's like, no, I can't sell you all of them. I got to sell it to some other people too and make some other money. But that's the kind of collector he was. He's like, give me all 200, Most people be happy with 1 or 2. So ends up being a fascinating collection. But as he unboxed the collection, he starts to unbox his family history and a lot of the feelings that have been there for a long time that he didn't get to resolve with his dad. And that makes it very tough, to be honest, a tough journey for him.
Yeah, it would have to be, because in a sense, he lost a part of his childhood to a childhood thing, so to speak.
Yeah, good point. I think he did. Or some collectors might realize they're losing a part of their, missing part of their own child growing up because they're so into a collection or any hobby. And watching this movie should make people reflect on your priorities and where you want to spend your time. And it's fun to have a hobby. It's fun to have people with like things, but your kids need you as well. So keep it in check.
Oh yeah. I had my son in 2006, and I had been traveling as a professional wrestler, and that was done.
Okay. All right.
I was there for my son. I was actually a stay-at-home mom for 8 years after I had him.
Wow, good for you.
A big swing from traveling and then staying at home with a baby.
Absolutely.
That's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you do, right? You change your priorities. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's definitely a warning in this film to people to check their thing, check themselves.
Yeah, it's the human side. Yeah. And that's what I liked about it, because it's raw emotion. He's sitting there looking at it, and he's in his mind seeing something different than what you're filming. That's just raw emotion. That's great. That's better than reality TV.
Oh my God. We make fun of reality TV in episode 2. We really do, because we start talking about addiction in episode 2, and in a light way. We actually approach it in a light, because a lot of comic book collectors, I should say, recognize the addiction side of it. And so in a light way, or like one of the characters says, you just have to realize I'm always going to be addicted to collecting. We just got to manage it. And at least it's something at the end of it, you might be able to sell for money, where if you're, just drinking and addicted to alcohol, you have a bad liver. So there is an upside. And then one of the characters says, but I'm never going to sell my comic books. So I guess that upside is not really an upside. So it is about managing it and kind of being lighthearted about it. And one of the experts calls it a mental illness, collecting in general. He says a mental illness, but it is a mental illness that has a great capability for healing, because it's usually trying to fill a hole or a nostalgia from our childhood. So if we recognize why we might be collecting, there is potential for healing amidst this kind of, as he calls it, a mental illness, where you just want so much, because something is lost or is missing, as you were kind of referring to,
Yeah, comic books can be expensive.
They can. Yeah. People spend a lot. But
you can make a lot of money too, as we see.
True. A lot of people collect or sell and such to keep their addiction going. So,
Yeah.
keep their hobby, keep the hobby alive. You almost have to become a bit of a dealer yourself. Yeah.
Kevin
I guess
Smith
if you
owns a comic book store.
He does. He
yeah.
does. Right. Yeah. I think it's in Connecticut, is it? Or
I think so. It's up there somewhere in the Northeast. Yeah.
yeah, Jersey or Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking Jersey.
But yeah, and he recognizes it, so he just bought a comic book store. Well, that and Deadpool his friend. So
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
It's in
Yeah,
Red
why
Bank,
not?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay.
close
Mhm.
enough. So don't at me, please don't at me.
I
Well,
guess though, like if you collect several copies and then they become worth something, I mean, you could sell one and then keep going with your collection with that $25,000.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I don't want to spoil alert, but I can say enough, that the collection itself costs a lot of money to handle because
Yeah.
the building out of the thing, and when you get books graded, you pay 4% of a book. So if you get $4 million book graded, this is hundreds, over $100,000. So there's a lot of money that has to go into even maintaining the collection. So you have to sell. But Darren, as you see in episode 4, he's also still buying. He ends up buying some too. And you're like, what's going on? You just inherited 300,000. Why are you buying? So it's interesting to find out why he'd do that in the end. But you got to sell some. Otherwise you can't keep it going. It's
Yeah.
expensive. At least
Yeah.
even inheriting it, you got to get rid of some. You can't just keep it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, recently there was some comic books that came out that were projected. Now everything's saying it could be worth something down the road. And I told my wife, I said, well, I'm going to buy like the first 10, one of each for my grandkids. And whenever they get old enough, give it to them. If it's worth something, great. If not, they got something to read, So
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's what I told her. I said, we've got to stop this. We can't get up to like issue 30. We'll give them the first 10 from what they're on their own. So
Once in a while, you have to get a little something and put it back. I have like the die-cast car of the last, it was the Elvis version of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s last 88 car, I think, or the last 8 car before he went to the 88 or something like that. So I have that. And, you have to get something here and there, hoping it'll be worth something one day.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
the Patrick Mahomes rookie card.
Do you?
Like,
All right.
yeah, just here and there, pick up a little something and hope it'll be worth something.
It's fun, right? Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun.
And that's another market that's got so many collectors is the sports memorabilia market.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And Darren, Darren's father, he has 1 million collectibles in total, 300,000 comic books. The rest are probably baseball cards. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And toys, a lot of Star Wars toys. They would go to Toys R Us, but as Darren says, not for us. They would go for, it was toys for him. Yeah.
That's funny.
That's, yeah. Well, and that's got to be tough on a kid. So,
Yeah, it was. It was tough on them. I think he was doing okay now. But
you think so after he's got a couple $1 million comic books,
Right?
yeah, I mean that is the normal reaction, and as you'd think, right? Okay, that makes it a little bit better. But full disclosure, Darren was already independently wealthy, self-made man, started his own tech businesses, so it's not a lottery film, right? It's not, I found a treasure. There's a treasure hunt to it of what's in there and what are you going to do with it and how do you do right by it is more the question. Like, should you sell it or how do you get it in the right hands? Or do you just sell off a collection when it was your dad's favorite thing? But who cares if it's your dad's favorite thing? Your dad was a jerk about it. So there's all these conflicting things going on. What's the moral thing to do? And the good part is it's not just a lottery of like, hey, let's sell it. Now I'm rich. He was already wealthy. So it's more of an internal battle, which I really, as a filmmaker, loved about it. I loved about it. I was interested to see, okay, who would buy this? Who are going to be the kind of eccentric characters that would pay $4 million for a comic book. But in the end, to be honest, that wasn't what was interesting. It was more the family and the people surrounding it that weren't the millionaires. It's just the average collector is fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were there any celebrities that came into this? I mean, you're from Hollywood, so celebrity to you is different than a celebrity to me.
No, celebrities are celebrity. I think we probably have the same idea of a celebrity. I was trying to, if I could share that. I was trying to actually do a little. Remember in Harry Met Sally when they had these little snippets of couples throughout the movie that were saying this is how we met, right? Like older couples. So I was going to do little snippets of celebrities that were saying their connection to comic books and what it meant to them. But in the end, no celebrities came through, and the film, it turned into something bigger anyway. I didn't have space to do these little vignettes. It turned into a 4-part series instead of a 90-minute doc like we intended. But we did do some of them. And my father, we did one. He ends up being in a bonus feature. And this guy Phil, who talks about his child who used Spider-Man to help her through cancer when she was a kid, and that becomes part of the series. I approached Seinfeld because he's a huge Superman fan. He declined. I approached Terrence Stamp. Do you know who Terrence Stamp is? Who he played in Superman? He played General Zod in Superman 2,
nice.
which would be the evil villain, right?
Yeah.
And he went to India early in his career before he became Zod. And so I resonate with that because I've gone to India all the time and filmed docs there. And I thought, oh, this is a cool way for me to start using a villain from Star Wars to talk about transforming internal and maybe help us get into those topics. But I couldn't end up getting to him. They don't always want to be in documentaries because we tell the truth. And who else did I approach? There's a congressman that lives here nearby here, Robert Garcia, and we didn't end up getting him in the film, but it does appear in the film. Like we didn't interview him. So Robert Garcia, when he got inaugurated into Congress, he's a congressman from, I think, Long Beach. And he put his hand on the Superman #1 instead of the Bible.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's how much it meant to him, because being an immigrant, and it's kind of an immigrant story in some ways, an alien or an immigrant that came here, and he really resonated with Superman and his morals and taking care of people and serving the people, and that's why he got into Congress. So he wanted to be sworn in on the Superman one. So that you see that and how much it means to certain people. This book and this character. Yeah, those are some of the fun celeb stories, but not so many in the film.
But that's cool nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely.
And the comic books mean different things to different people. I was a huge Spider-Man person growing up, and I think that's part of the reason I went on and became a paramedic, because with great power comes great responsibility. And so that was what resonated with me. And I've been back and forth. I'll catch up here and there, but I've not got like every issue since I was a child. And Kindle is a great thing. Now I don't need 10 million of them in my closet.
Yes, you can just read them.
Yes.
But your Kindle won't be worth $4 million one day, Glenn.
True.
Valid point, but I'll still be married. Even though I would probably prefer the money, but she never watches the show, so we're okay.
We're back.
Say whatever you want. Yeah, that's amazing. I tended to flip it in the series. Near the end of the series, I say, instead of with great power comes great responsibility, which it does with not that everyone abides by that. A lot of people have great power and do not. So I like to flip it and say, with great responsibility, as the more responsibility you take for your life, true power starts to come with that. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Wow. Yeah, that's very good. I've got reflecting back to bone. Yeah. Because like I said, it meant a lot to me growing up, and that was, once just raised in a single, mom home, and just every now and then getting a Slurpee in a comic book. So
exactly. No, they teach us really good things. These superheroes give us great role models. I think that's the cool part. And for a lot of people, a little escape that's necessary. Or one of the guys in the film he was bullied when he was a kid for being fat, and he loved Tony Stark and Iron Man because he felt like he wished he could be like that and a little more impenetrable, so to speak. And so sometimes people just need a little escape when the world's, actually just being too mean to people. So yeah, these stories can be very helpful.
Yeah. Were you a comic book person growing up?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, now as you were saying, your life journey's taken you on a different path. So tell us a little bit about some of your other stuff too, because I'm fascinated by some of those things too.
Yeah. So again, not a comic book fan, but I did love, like Lord of the Rings, and I love Star Wars, of course, and in the Superman movies. I just wasn't reading comics, but I definitely resonated with Yoda, right? And the Jedi and the Force, that I think had an impact on me, or maybe I was wired that way. And I picked up a Gandhi book when I was in 7th grade, the autobiography of Gandhi, and started reading that for some reason, cover to cover, and a Deepak Chopra book when I was 15. So I think part of me was wired for India pretty early on. And when I did get the chance, I just moved to LA, and I'm like, oh, I'm settling down in LA. And within 6 months, I was in India. So I was like, that didn't quite work. And I've been going to India pretty much every year since. But I met a wonderful teacher there and guru in the birthplace of yoga, Rishikesh. And after studying with him a long time, he said, hey, you want to go over, ride motorcycles over the highest road in the world at 18,000 feet through Indian Himalayas? Visit some temples. And he said it more profoundly than I just did, but I made myself say yes, because I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I thought they were, stupid and dangerous, and I would crash mopeds in India. And India is nuts for driving. It is so nuts.
Yes.
But I said yes, and we invited other people, and eventually thought, well, why don't we share this by filming it? And that became my first documentary. That was called The Highest Pass. And I was definitely, put through the ringer on that one in terms of facing my own death every day on the motorcycle, and just dealing with a first-time filmmaker, 21 days straight going through India with a huge crew, and it was crazy, but probably one of the most enlightening experiences of my life. Yeah, that's how it began.
I want to be clear: you didn't know how to ride a motorcycle before that?
I did not. I learned 2 weeks before, to be honest.
Holy cow.
And my guru, my teacher, had a prophecy that he would die in his late 20s in an accident. So it's great. Like, it's really sounds stupid. As Paul Reiser want, to drop celebrity names, because I told him about this once, and he said, you're either really brave or you're just really stupid. And I said, a little of both, I think a little bit of both. So yeah, and it makes for a good cinema when there's a prophecy of death and someone that doesn't know how to ride. You're on the edge of your seat, and a lot of people crash in our group. There's a lot of accidents in that film. It's on day 2. It was like, wow, I think this is falling apart. Like, we're not going to make it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We get caught in the snow, and we get caught in all this stuff, like carrying bikes over snow, altitude sickness, road killer traffic. It was a fascinating, very challenging film to make. I'm looking up like this because I look at the poster sometimes, but
yeah.
Wow, I can't imagine just suddenly saying, okay, I'm going to do this and documenting it.
I probably should have learned how to ride a little earlier before. I had some time, but you put these things off.
Yeah, especially if you really don't want to get on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
It was good.
I didn't do it for the film. I didn't not learn because for the film to be cool, because not learning means you could die. So that no film is worth that. It was more, what do you call it? Procrastination? Yeah.
Yes.
Was there a lot of fear? I mean, the adrenaline has to take over a lot of that, but how about the fear? Gosh. The
Absolutely.
altitude sickness, the snow, everything. Goodness.
Absolutely. And understand, like, I train in a different way as well, meaning lots of meditation, lots of breath work, lots of wisdom, lots of time with my teacher, and lots of faith and trust. And and the key is like not to to not be afraid. It's just to have a little bit more love than fear. We describe it like a rocket. A rocket ship is taking off and it's slow at the beginning, but that's just a little more power than gravity, just a little bit. And that's what you need. Just a little more love, a little more faith in the fear. Don't expect, to have no fear is way beyond what you should expect. It's not going to happen. Of course you're going to be afraid. Just muster a little bit more love and faith. So yeah, the nervous system was pretty shot. When you're 12 hours a day, I would confide in you that I would sometimes at lunch just go cry behind a rock. Like, no reason I was crying. It's just how babies cry because they're overstimulated. So my body somatically would want to just get some stuff out. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just go shake and cry for 10 minutes, get that out, and hop back on a bike, and that's how it was. I'm like, fine, let's do that. And then you're back in the game, and it's ride or die, basically.
Yeah.
Probably like wrestling, professional wrestling, fight or
Yep.
fight or die, man.
Yeah.
Well, they kept telling her she couldn't do it, and that's what pushed her on.
Oh yeah. I was
right?
like, there was that movie, some $1 Million Baby.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of my story. My mom was like, you can't do that. You could never be a wrestler. I don't know what you're doing, and I did it. I went and I did it. I traveled all over and wrestled and could have gone
That's
on to WWE, but I didn't go that route. I was like, no, I'm not wrestling in a bikini. And so, yeah, I stayed behind and just wrestled the independent circuit and had a blast, but proved to
Cool.
my mom I could do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Yeah. I bring home my belts and show her. Like, I want this title.
And was she happy for you? Like, supportive at that point? Was she?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Her and my dad would come to the shows and stuff and watch me. My dad would be out there going, "That's my daughter," and I'm like, "Dad, you can't tell people that." Like, I have a persona here. I'm not your
Right.
daughter when I'm in the ring.
Right. And what was the name? What was your name, Amanda, in the ring?
I was Siren, Syren.
Oh, Siren. Cool. Any reason for that?
No, not really. It was
All
just
right.
this kind of came to me, and I used the music Thunder Kiss 65 by White Zombie, and it has the siren go off in
Oh,
the
there you
middle
go.
of it. So it was fun.
And do you have
Yeah.
reddish hair? Maybe why siren? Like a red siren going. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I got the red hair too. For those
Yeah.
that can't. Yeah. For those that are just listening, I have red hair and blue eyes. So
Yeah.
ginger.
I have
And she
hazel
can,
eyes.
and she can still kick our ass. So
I'm sure.
I'll hurt afterward, but
dads don't understand kafabi, and I don't know if I said that right.
oh, kayfabe. Yeah.
Kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Okay.
They don't understand kayfabe at all. No.
All right. I don't know what kayfabe is, so I apologize.
Me neither. Nor do I.
I'm gonna go with it. So, Adam, what other? That was your first documentary.
That was my first documentary. After that, I went to Kazakhstan to a nuclear testing site.
Wow.
I guess I just, like difficult places. And that was where the Soviets tested over 400 bombs. But we wanted to expose that they weren't helping out the villagers that were most impacted around that area. And the villagers themselves are amazing. They really take care of each other. It's a difficult situation. The radiation gets in the water, the food, genetics, tough place to be, but amazing crew that we went with. Actually, 2 of the people got married, which is super cool. And so that became the Polygon, and tell the story of the people that were affected by that nuclear testing. Then I did a film. I'll jump around a little. A film called Heal, which is a #1 bestseller on iTunes. It was on Netflix. Now it's on Prime, and that's all about the the power within to heal and a lot of alternative healing, but not denying Western healing. It's just saying, let's expand the idea of healing and say there's an emotional aspect, there's a laughing aspect, there's a purpose in life aspect, stress reduction aspect. Like let's look at it and open up the possibility for something a little more miraculous than what the white coat might tell you. Because that can be a negative placebo of there, like this is what's going to happen. That film's been very successful, I think, because people chronically are ill a lot in this country, so they look for something. And then Women of the White Buffalo. We went to the Native American reservation in Pine Ridge with the Lakota people to tell the story of the genocide, really, of Native Americans and how it basically continues today with the murder and missing Indigenous women, but how the matriarch there, I always try to focus on maybe a tough situation, but who's empowering. So in Kazakhstan, it's the villagers empowering. With Women of the White Buffalo, it's the women of the tribes that are empowering themselves and saying, we need to rise up again and teach our kids our connection with the earth and that the feminine is strong here. And a film I'm raising money for now is similar. We're telling the story of Aaron Marin, who basically overcame sexual child abuse and created a law called Aaron's Law that's passed in 38 states. It helps empower kids to speak up. And she's got 12 states left. So we're following that story to get the last 12 states. But again, we're telling, something that's very difficult and tragic and it affects 40 million people. But Aaron's Law is this thing that's like, I'm gone from tragedy to speaking up to power, and I'm helping more kids empower. And so I like that when the inner journey or the powerful journey or the positive journey around something that might be difficult. And then beyond that, I went back to the Himalayas. Can you imagine? And for a little more motorcycling, I couldn't get enough. Once I knew how, I said, let's do it again. So we created the Road to Dharma, and that became a doc series where, again, I'm riding and it's a little more 10 episodes. So I say a little more reality show like, but not in the way we tell the story. But we have a bunch of characters going to sacred sites, learning about freedom, again, with the same guru. And again, you're in India, so you got the monsoon range, you got cliffs, you got people that don't know how to ride motorcycles. You got a guy that was 75 years old that came back on a bike after 40 years of not riding. And the people really inspire you. It's amazing teachings. It's gorgeous to see these places in the Himalayas. And I really love the Road to Dharma, that doc series. And I think that probably, the doc series format of that probably inspired me to take that leap with Selling Superman instead of doing a 90-minute feature, to say, you know what, let's do a 4-part series. Let's go a little deeper, have more time, not feel rushed, so that you can get into some, more deep inner topics like Nietzsche. We bring in the philosopher Nietzsche in episode 4, who I don't know if you know him, with the Ubermensch. He came up with something called the Ubermensch. Have you ever heard of the Ubermensch?
No.
So Ubermensch in German, Uber means beyond or super. That much like the car company, they're like, just we're Uber, we're beyond, we're the best. So Uber means super, and Mensch means man. So it was the original Superman. That's where the origin of Superman came from, was Nietzsche, who developed this idea of the Superman. And his idea of the Superman was that it's the person who's beyond the conditioning of society, who makes up their own rules and their own value system and says, screw you, society. I don't care what you think. Screw you, mom and dad. I don't care what you think. This is what I think is important in life, and I'm going to live by these rules. And he says, that's the Superman. The Superman decides how to value himself. And it's really appropriate for the Selling Superman series, because I think Darren is on that journey of self-empowering and starting to value himself in a different way than his dad valued him. So that's how that's how I tie in philosophy and all of India and all this stuff into comic books somehow.
Wow.
It's a great journey, though.
Just summed up my life in 5 minutes. There you go.
Yeah, that's
Well,
quite a life, Adam.
I'm out of breath.
I'm sure.
but you haven't summed it all up, because you still have some paranormal to talk about now.
Sure. How paranormal is paranormal? Like, what's the scale here?
Anything unnormal.
Anything unnormal?
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything from Bigfoot to a ghost to
UFO.
Man in Black. I mean, yeah, it could be anything.
All right, I'll give you this one. And as I mentioned, there is some footage in Selling Superman where there is a UFO. So I might release that in the next week or so. And if anyone's listening to this now and they find the UFO footage in there, like, congratulations and thumbs up. It's very difficult to find. But if you do, send it to me. But I know where it is, but it's very hard to find. So there is UFO footage in Selling Superman. I'll just say that first and foremost. But this experience, my paranormal experience, would be when I was mid 20s, 25, 26. One night, I was in that sleep, but not sleep state, awake, but the body was more or less still. I wouldn't say being held still, but very, very still. And the first time this ball of light came, I kind of told it to get away. I was scared. I told it to get away. And then I talked to some people and they're like, as long as it's of the, white light and it's good, then you can invite it in. So it did come back a couple days later. And so this literally a ball of light, right? I said, okay, if you're of the light and you're here to, show me anything, do whatever, then fine, you can come in. And it literally came into my body and started moving all around my body, this white light, just kind of like doing its thing, going all throughout every vein, artery, every part of my body, just moving all. And after 5-10 minutes, when it was done, it just flew away. And that's as much as I got for you. That's my paranormal experience of an entity, a consciousness came in and did some kind of reorganization to me. And it felt good.
Well, at least it was good.
Was it a warm feeling? How did it feel?
Good question. It felt like movement. I can't remember if it's hot or cold or warm, but of the light, it felt a good force. And again, like a vampire, you have to invite a vampire in. But when I say only the highest and finest of light may enter, then that means something. And yeah, it felt like it was helping me out. It was rewiring, clearing something. I have it didn't leave with me with any residue of what it might have been or who or from where. It just felt like I was visited and helped out. And I don't know if you want to call that an angel, you want to call that an alien, you want to call that a ghost. I don't know. But I thought that was very sweet.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I'm mid-20s, I think 26. Yeah.
Okay. So you had already just started down your path of enlightenment towards things. So
absolutely. No, yeah, I've been meditating for at least 8 years at that point and been to Buddhist monasteries and taken, I trained somewhat. Yeah. But I had not been to India yet.
But you were open to, the white light, the positive energy. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. Especially that didn't leave you a data dump, like Kilroy was here or something. I mean, I'm being facetious, but some kind of,
Yeah, no data dump. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, no data dump. No, here are the plans for the ship, and you need to build it. Go build the Integratron, kind of thing. The Integratron out there in Joshua Tree Desert. That's awesome. Those are my friends out there. I love them. So I visit them pretty often. They're so nice. But yeah, I'll just say this. I have no doubt there's, aliens out there. I mean, it would be crazy if there isn't. It'd be crazy if there isn't. That's for sure. Bigfoot, who knows? But aliens, no problem. I'm trying to think if there's any other. I've seen what I would call an unidentified flying object when we were up in, Mount Adams in Washington. There's quite a lot of paranormal activity up there. Mm-hmm. And we were up there at a certain guy has this land where people go and just watch from his land, and definitely saw some lights moving in a way and speed that could not be of ours. So, that makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, mathematically, I think it would you'd be naive to not think this just from the little part of the universe galaxy that we know about. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd be naive to think that. Chris asks, did the time that it was inside you seem as a normal 10 minutes? Would you feel it, or did it seem longer or shorter? Did it follow you up, or did you ever feel out of control?
That's a good question. Time felt pretty normal, I would say, but out of control, I was definitely I definitely couldn't move per se. If I remember correctly, it was okay, it's in me, it's doing my thing. I had to surrender and let go of the control of my body and let it do its thing. So there wasn't out of controlness in that way, but never felt scary, never felt bad. Just felt fascinating, to be honest. Like, what is going on? What is this? And
It makes me wonder if someone was like visiting you who loved you
yeah, who knows?
and wanted you to feel loved,
Yeah, it could be.
you know.
Yeah. Could be a grandparent or somebody, or
Hmm.
it could be myself from the future that wanted to come and remind me of something. It could be a guru
Yeah.
with power coming in there to just, tweak me a little to get ready for the rest of my life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mystery.
Something.
Having a relationship with mystery to me is pretty important. As much as I like to, control things and have it my way, it's important to have a little relationship to mystery and the unknown, because life's just a little bit crazy, as you guys know.
Oh, yeah. I think about it a lot, like what a tiny speck of dust the Earth is in this huge universe, and you think about how small you are on that speck that is Earth. And yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Always remember, with just one finger, you have the power to change the flow of the Mississippi River. Think about that. With one finger, you can dip your finger in there and it will go around your finger. So you still have great power.
Yeah.
This is cool. You do have great power. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you sure as hell can't stop water from getting to the ocean. That's one thing for
No.
Right.
No, you can just move it with your finger. You can move.
It's going there. The water's going to the ocean. We're going home eventually. So,
and if you jump in, it's going to take you with it. So,
oh yeah, there you go.
Chris says you don't give yourself enough credit for having a good paranormal story, Adam.
Yeah, that's really good.
That is.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. No, I'm happy it's a good one, not a bad one. And I'm happy I was given advice to say, you can talk to these entities, and if it's of the light, you can work with it. So I got some good advice back then from some people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, has that helped you along your journey?
That experience?
Yeah, that one experience.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Absolutely. I can't put a finger on the information or what it did or what it prepared me for, but I kind of look at it like, all right, in the highest pass, we're up in this area called Ladakh, and we visit an oracle. So this woman is an oracle, and so she basically channels spirit, and the Dalai Lama has his own oracle, and a lot of these people have oracles. It's not such a weird thing in their world. It's an advisor who happens like a shaman, So we visit this oracle, 10 of us in this room, and she goes into her trance and she's drumming, and somebody asks about, oh, am I going to be married or whatever? And she's like, I don't answer such questions of the mind, like, okay. And I had already, devised, in my head, like, okay, I don't think I have a question as much as what would best serve my evolution right now? Okay, just you tell me what I might need to hear. It's like, even at me asking a question, how about you just let me know what might help me the best? Let's go with that. And I think that's kind of a nice philosophy in general for life, is like, all right, well, what's going to help me the best right now? And sometimes we don't know what's going to help us the best, and it might be adversity, but you just go with it. So who knows if that, that entity, that's kind of how I see it, is it probably showed me whatever I needed to see at the time. Maybe, as Chris is saying, a good good experience, maybe prepped me to be a little more open to those things, or who knows, but somehow each little step you look back and you're like, oh, it all got me here, right? It all got me here.
Yeah. These are all steps. I mean, just little stepping stones. So what's next on your journeys? Because goodness, you've done so much.
Thank you. Like the Aaron's Law film that I mentioned, if you go to aaronslawfilm.com, you can see the trailer for that one. We're raising money for that one. And but it's a really good cause. I mean, just really is like help. There's just way too much child sex abuse. I didn't realize it, but there really is. I'm not directing that one. I'm executive producing it. And we brought in an amazing female director, Moa Eisern, to do that one. So that I'm very excited about that one. And whenever I talk about it, I get quite emotional. And when I talk about their friends, I can't believe some of my friends that then come forward and say, yeah, it happened to me. Guys, gals, a lot of people that haven't talked about it. So that's out there. It's something that's happening. And I think we can have a positive impact through some film. So I'm very happy about that one. Again, something I didn't plan on doing, but just came into my lap, and you got to do it. Sometimes you just got to say, okay, I got to help on this one, even if it's not my plan. Yeah. And then we might go back and do a Road to Dharma season 2. These motorcycles in the Himalayas are calling me, and yeah, and it would be nice to ride with my guru again. This would be the last season, that we would do, even though it's just season 2. But yeah, that's on the docket. Maybe there's a heal part 2. I don't know, but that's what we think now. We'll see. Releasing Selling Superman's the big one, to be honest. So if people can go out there and watch Selling Superman and get that up to #1 in the charts, then it turns some heads and they realize, okay, this has got some, everyone's loving it so far. So we just want to turn the heads and maybe get the Netflixes and all those guys really clamoring for it. And then, release it to a broader audience eventually. So that's it.
Yeah. I don't see how you can't. I mean, it's just from what little bit I've already watched is so moving. So
cool.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys?
Well, I always joke that we're one day going to have a live show in Vegas, but I'm now moving into Key West because I like Key West people. But,
I'll go either place. Just take me out of Kentucky.
That's a good question. Because when I started this, I didn't really want to do it. And I know that sounds weird, but my wife kind of pushed me because I was a retired paramedic firefighter injured on the job. And she was tired of seeing me sitting at home do nothing. And she says, well, you've got a big mouth. So she pushed me towards doing this. And the paranormal interest, of course, I'm interested in Bigfoot and ET and those type of things. But what got me was during my injury on duty, there was a voice in my head that I have not figured out what or whom it was that tried to tell me, apparently I'm not very bright, not to get injured. So that's what started that journey. But I don't know. Like you, it's kind of each day is something new. And even tonight, for instance, my original 2 guests, for whatever reason, were busy, flaked out, whatever. But I think there was a reason I had you and Thomas on.
Yeah.
I don't know. And because I debated on sending you the message because I'm like, well, he did say sooner, but I was like, this is kind of soon.
It's perfect. I mean, the series just came out. So from that aspect of it, it's just perfect. And I'm available. So that's great. Was the voice, did it have a specific voice? Do you know who it was? Was it part of you? What do you think?
I want to say it was a part of me, but I couldn't tell you if it was a male or female. I was attacked on duty by a pit bull. And the voice said, don't get bit. And it's a whole long story, but I looked up ahead and there was a bunch of chihuahuas. I got steel-toed boots. I can kick them. I just data clear. Next step, being a big brave man. Like you said, just march forward, And then this next time it screamed like 2 steps later, don't get bit. And I'm thinking, okay, what the hell? Now at this point I'm arguing with myself, and that's when I got bit. But after the attack, time went into slow motion during the attack, but after the attack, and I'm looking at my hand going, well, that kind of sucks. The voice in my head said, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay. And it's only said two things. It's only going to hurt for a little while, which was true. And it'll all be okay. So, I don't know. And, even as my journey as a paramedic, I started in rural East Tennessee, and I went to work in a county where I probably had no business working because I was the only paramedic in the county, and I was so green the stuff holding my patch on was still drying, my paramedic patch. And I had a cardiac save, first cardiac arrest. I had a save, so I feel like I was supposed to be there.
Cool.
And then I went to another county where all the paramedics were much more knowledgeable than me, and I ran the craziest calls and had some great success. That as a young paramedic, looking back, what the hell was I doing? I didn't even know what I was doing. But so I always have known, and then something took me to Atlanta, Georgia. Still haven't figured that one out. But no, there was a cardiac arrest save there that I was instrumental in. But everywhere I've been, I feel like there's been a reason. But I don't know why I got taken offline, so to speak. And so that's my journey, trying to figure it all out. And I don't know, it's kind of crazy. So if you're bored and want to do a film on me, I'm more tell you more. So.
Rarely bored. Thank you for that.
You probably wouldn't sell maybe one or two DVDs, but hey.
Well, no, who knows? You tell it the right way. Most people go through challenges, and it is quite incredible, right? And experiences like you've been through, like I think we all have interesting lives in that way. But just know, making a film, just like Darren, who's in it, like you'll see the way it opens is he doesn't want to be in the film anymore. It's not always the most fun thing to have your life exposed out there for the world, and so it can be a tough thing making a film. I don't mind so much, but not everybody wants it all out there,
Oh, I admit it was challenging for me because as time went on with having shows and stuff and interviewing guests, little pieces of me slip out. And of course my regular guests go like, oh, there he goes with the dog story again. But it was a challenge. And I think it was also PTSD is a real thing.
Yeah.
For people that don't believe in it, it's a real thing. And it opened my eyes to that. And I like to now, anyone that has a story with PTSD or something, bring them on, come talk to me. I want to hear your story. I want to hear, how you dealt with it. So I'm fascinated by that aspect.
Beautiful. No, absolutely. I mean, and there's elements of that in Superman, because it doesn't always have to be in a singular event. It can be a prolonged event over time, right? Any abnormal kind of reaction to normal response over time can create PTSD. So if the partner you're with is abnormally reacting crazily to certain things, or as a perfectionist, and you as a kid have to adapt to that becomes PTSD, but on a prolonged level. It can happen in relationships. It can happen, father son. It can happen in a lot of ways. So PTSD, I just want to reflect, absolutely is so real. Absolutely.
And I want to circle back, talking about the sexual abuse. I had another show I did was kind of public safety oriented. I still do it occasionally. I had a military guy come on, and we were talking about PTSD. Out of nowhere, he opens up and starts telling me about stories of when he was in boot camp and was sodomized.
Jeez.
And now he's been to Congress and spoke out. He said that nobody knows about this, that it's a normal thing in the military. Wow. And him and his wife are also, they direct movies and films and such, but he just kind of opened up about it. And I was stunned because I had never thought about that. But when he started talking about the percentages and the numbers, how many female versus males there are in the military with just the numbers they release, I was like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never realized it. So, yeah, victims of sexual crimes, sexual abuse. I mean,
Way too many.
It's a real thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, way too many.
Yeah.
44, they say 42 million current adults were sexually abused as children.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a huge percentage. And a lot of, like non-statistically, a lot of therapists we talk to say 50% of their clients, the root cause or root issue they're coming in for is because of sexual abuse when they were children. So, the costs of it really extend beyond even, the PTSD of it. It goes into like, okay, mental health issues or economic issues or just struggles that cost us as a society a lot, cost the person a lot. And so, that's part of healthcare, is trying to nip that in the bud before it happens and have people speak out. So it's all part of making this make America healthy again, to not take Robert F. Kennedy's.
I don't know if he's trademarked it yet, but
yeah, make America healthy. I didn't mean to go political. I just meant real. It's just a nice saying, actually. Let's get more healthy again. Yeah,
it is. It is. Hey, get that red food dye out of my grandkids' fruit loops. We don't need that. So I'm all for that. I'll leave you with another statistic on that. About 90% of emergency responders, that's public safety in general, have childhood trauma, and that's why they became responders.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I found that I found that out through group therapy with other responders. So,
wow, thank you for sharing that. That's fascinating.
Wow. Oh, Chris, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Chris says that he was a victim that ruined his marriage and his life, holding it until he was in his 40s. So, that's right.
That's not I mean, you're not alone in that, in terms of, a lot of people I've talked to who, it took till they were 50 or 60 because our society wasn't so geared to talk about, especially on the male side, where it's a sign of weakness or blah, blah, blah. It's not. So thankfully therapy and speaking up for everybody is becoming more normal. So glad you got there, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, Chris,
it helps others when you share.
It does.
Yeah. And I know Chris had read one of my guest's book, and that he had made a comment in the past. I kind of remember, Chris, that changed his life, the book. So that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Adam, I don't want to take up all of your time. I'm fascinated by your story. And also Thomas says that he was glad to be here and it was a blast. So we welcome him back. I would welcome you back. And if you want to release your UFO stuff on one of our shows, I'd be more than glad to.
I'll let you know when I have it.
I think that is so cool.
Awesome.
Now with the who knows what the government's going to tell us? That one landed on the White House lawn and went in and shook their hand. Who knows?
Absolutely. I'll let you know when I hopefully in the next week I'll release the footage. But again, for those that are watching now, they can try and find it. That's a kind of nice, fun Easter egg.
Yeah, I'm going to go try to find it for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Well, some of my fans of the show will definitely now go try and find it.
I've already sent you a friend request on Facebook, Adam, so I'll let you know if I see it.
She stalked you before me. Goodness gracious. It worries me sometimes.
That's what you're supposed to do.
I'm on it when
you're
it comes to
that.
Facebook. I'm on it.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm a little behind on this technology stuff, but I'll send you one too. I'll have to find out where she found all the stuff from. So about that.
Amanda Zimmerman, we got you right there.
Yep, that's me.
All
right. So for our radio listening audience, tell everybody where they can go and find it, and anything else you want to plug.
Sure. I mean, that's really the main plug, sellingsuperman.com. Superman.com. It links you to Apple, to Amazon, where you can buy it there, to Google Play. Or if you go to those platforms and put in Selling Superman, it will come up. It's a 4-part doc series. You can buy the whole season pass, for $11.99, or you can actually just buy one episode, so that jump into one episode and you're like, let me check it out first. and I promise you'll be hooked after one episode and want to keep going. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate people going to watch the doc series. It definitely helps when the indie docs go up in the charts, then people watch and listen. So we definitely love people to jump on it now. So thank you.
Well, I'm so bored with regular TV. So
Right.
my only guilty pleasure in regular TV is CBS's Big Brother in the summer. That's just because I get to spy through people on a camera. So
Cool.
Adam, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I'm so glad you took some time out of this evening for us. It was great in so many ways.
Likewise.
So thank you.
Yeah.
You
Thanks for sharing that statistic. Thanks for being a first responder, firefighter. Is that what you said?
Firefighter, paramedic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Firefighter. Thanks for doing that and sharing your stories about the PTSD and therapy and all that good stuff. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a real thing. I didn't believe it until it happened, but it's a real thing. Yeah. So, Adam, have a great night, and I hope that we see you again. I really do. I've enjoyed this.
Likewise, man. Thanks, Amanda.
Yes. Thanks, Adam.
Nice see you soon, Adam.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. What a great show. Oh my gosh, they were amazing.
Yes, they were. This was an amazing show. And it's funny, I spend so much time putting a show together, whether it's one like this where I throw together at the last minute or whether I'm searching for guests or whatever. But this one meant so much to me. It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. So Chris says, I think that is part of the reason why you were meant to go into the business, Glenn. Otherwise, I never would have found you and these wonderful co-hosts and guests. Well, I would not have met these wonderful co-hosts and ladies that I have in my life, and they've certainly changed my life. So yes, I think everything happens for a reason. So everybody at WDJY, WRFN, please come over to YouTube and find us under the Sport Cat shows, the Paranormal Guyz, 3 words with a Z, and like, share, and subscribe. So Chris will get off my back for one, but Chris is our #1 supporter, and him and Wendell are always in the chat, always in the comments, and we appreciate everybody that's in the chat and in the comments. So please come over and join us, and then you'll get to check out these hot co-hosts I have. So
and Glenn.
And so we're away from the WDJY and WRFN stuff a little bit now. Monday, do you think yes, Chris is subscribed now, please. Monday, do you think you and Shay will be able to get a show?
Fingers crossed, nothing comes up.
Okay.
And we will be on here with 2 broke witches.
Life happens.
Yes.
So it is what it is. People get sick, there's childcare issues, and there's life. So
there's always something. But fingers crossed, we're on here Monday night with 2 broke witches. And we have some pretty cool stuff to talk about when we get back. So, yeah.
And I have a feeling Thomas is somehow going to become involved in this because he was such a great guest. So
yes. Yeah. We'll definitely have to chat with Thomas and see what we can do maybe down in Tennessee too, because right now we're mainly focusing on Kentucky. We're getting ready to look into like our family stories and our family history. Shay and I are. We both have some stories on each side of our families. So we want to talk about that a little bit and different things around Kentucky that people have seen and are aware of.
Okay. Well, like I didn't know about the recent Mothman, so yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And Shay knows a little bit more about that because that's in her town.
Okay.
So yeah, we have some different things we want to do, a few leads on places to investigate. We're waiting to hear back from people about those places. It takes a while to get this set up. I wasn't expecting that. So we've had a little bit of a setback on our locations and actually getting in to do investigations at some different places. But we do have a few places that we've contacted trying to get into. So we're just waiting to hear back.
Cool. Well, and as I told you two ladies, there's a lot that goes on to a show that you don't realize until you see the sausage being made. So yeah,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah.
a little bit more in depth, but we'll get it. I'm not concerned about that show one bit. So I
No,
think
we have a
y'all are
lot
gonna
of
do
people
great.
who really enjoy it so far, and we have a lot of
Yeah,
followers on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and it's going really well so far.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
of course, coming up in January, we're going to try and go over to Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania. Why did that come out? To good Lord, Alabama. How did Pennsylvania come out when I was thinking about Alabama?
I don't
Must be
know. That's a lot farther, Glenn.
yes, north, wrong side of the Mason Dixon line. We're going to try and go see Greg's movie. So, any of our fans that can make the trip to Alabama, January 4th, correct?
Yep.
I
January
believe
4th.
some of our cast, some of my team. So there's going to be a large of us present, plus Greg, and a great
Yep.
movie. So anybody that can make it to that, let us know. We'll have
Yeah.
we'll have an adult beverage together, since apparently now I
Yeah.
don't have to drive. I hear so.
Glenn and I will be there, and we'd love to hang out with you, everybody who can make it.
Yeah, B Dizzle's
What
going to
part
be
of
there.
Yeah, what part of Alabama is that? Coleman,
Um,
Cullman, Coleman,
correct.
Alabama.
Yes,
We'll
yes.
be there January 4th.
January 4th. So come over, support us, support one of our loyal followers, and we follow Greg. So yeah, come do that.
Yeah, Greg's
And
amazing. I can't wait to go.
yeah, I can't. I've met Greg in person multiple times, but each time I do, I learn something else.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy. I like Greg a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll meet some of my other team members, and then who knows, something spooky may happen then too. So you never know. That is one thing, when you get a bunch of like-minded people together, weird things happen.
I know. I've already seen a couple of places. I'm like, oh, we should go check that place out.
Chris says, by the way, he's this huge sports card collector. He inherited his my grandmother's brother's comic collection when he was passed. So Adam's series is another guest right up my alley. Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Chris, I got a book. My wife sent me a picture of it in the mail from an author that he was going to be on, but we rescheduled it, where he talks about the sports gods are real. And I asked him if he could send me a copy of the one on football, because football is my main sport. So it came. I will read that when I get home. I've got a stack of books to read already, but I got to, and I'm taking a class right now. Good Lord.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and it involves algebra. But that's another.
Oh, I have to do algebra every day. It sucks. That's my job.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send you the question so you can give me how to figure out how to do the answer, because I don't know what X and R equals.
I don't have to deal with the
Z
X's and
and-
R's. I have to transpose prescriptions.
I
So
don't
like
know.
your glasses, they can be in plus or minus seal form, and I can transpose those with
You
algebraically.
read doctor's handwriting too, so that's a
Yes.
language on its own.
Yes, it is. It
So,
really is. Yeah.
um,
Chris, I love sports too. It's funny, I was a wrestler, but I don't watch wrestling. I watch every other sport practically, but wrestling.
she's a Saints fan. She's a Saints
Yes.
fan. So.
I love New Orleans Saints, college basketball, college football.
Yeah, college
Um,
basketball, yeah. College
Yep.
football, yeah. I did
Yeah.
hear a rumor today that kind of my ears perked up a little bit.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is potentially not going to be a Jet, and the Saints is one of the teams he's looking at.
Sweet.
And I'm like,
Yes.
why?
sweet.
Why?
Yeah. Bring it
No,
on, Aaron
no.
Rodgers.
So I guess it's a dome. It's warmer. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, you
yeah,
know,
that,
they fired their coach. So, and since they fired their coach, we've won the last 2 games. They lost 7 in a row, fired the coach, and we've won the last 2.
and you got a future Hall of Fame quarterback going, I don't really want to be here in New York anymore. And that's one
Yeah.
of the 3 teams he mentioned.
Bring it
Minnesota,
on.
New Orleans, in Las Vegas. So it's
Oh,
probably going to come down to who has the most money. And well, Tom Brady's kind of running
uh,
Las Vegas, so I don't know about that one.
yeah,
So he's already done the cold thing, and plus, I would think we're going to get into sports things here for a second, but I would think that would put him back into Brett Favre's shadow.
yeah.
Because did he not go to the Jets? Did he not spend some time with the Jets? I know he went to Minnesota
Um,
and finished out his career, but he spent so much of his time in Brett Favre's shadow. I would think that would be a huge turnoff. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be associated. I want to be my
yeah,
own man.
he was traded in 2008 to the Jets, where
Yeah.
he played 1 year
Yep.
and then spent his final 2 seasons with the Vikings.
Yep. See, that's why I think that he would shy away from that. And
Yeah.
just me thinking, I mean, I'm not a prognosticator or a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but he has spent a great deal of time trying to get out of the man's shadow and be his own legacy. And he is his own quarterback in his own right. So I can separate the two. Brett Favre was a gunslinger as compared to Aaron Rodgers, although the Hail Mary, Jesus, Aaron has that one down pat. But yeah, and I don't think he'd want to go to Las Vegas because it's owned by Brady, and once again, he's in a Hall of Fame quarterback shadow. I would think he'd want to go. I mean, not saying Drew Brees isn't a Hall of Fame quarterback, because I think he will be, but I don't think that he would be in the shadow.
He would overshadow. Yeah, he would never shadow him so much. He can go there and create his own legacy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love Drew Brees. I mean, he was just inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. So yeah, he's definitely on his way to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But there's room for Aaron to go be his own person there.
Yeah. And who knows if they get I don't think they're going to get Belichick. I think he's going to the Cowboys. Yeah. And I hope he does. And I hope he fails.
Yeah.
He's old. He's old. Go be a Cowboy. They'll fail.
Yeah. We'll just
and your husband's team got taken out by Buffalo this weekend, and I missed it. Yeah. I missed it. The greatest game of the season so far, and I missed it. So, Aaron says, or Chris says, Aaron is a sore subject for him because he's a Bears fan.
Well, I'm a UK basketball fan, so we can't even talk about Duke. Sorry. So, yeah.
I love to kid you when Kentucky's doing good in football. I'm like, they have a football team? Is it a basketball team?
Oh. I know, we're so known for basketball. Our legacy goes so far back with basketball. Everybody's like, wait, football? Kentucky? What? Yeah. And then we got a pretty decent football coach, and we kind of went up a little bit, and they're like, okay, they can play football. We had season tickets a few years ago. We got football season tickets and went to all the games. It was a blast.
I've been to a couple of UT games. I've went more as a paramedic, and I'll never do that again. But it was always fun. Yeah, it's the college. I've been to the pro games multiple times. I won't say multiple, but quite a few times. But the college games are just so much more energy.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
So, yeah, I do too.
We're going to my son's college football games right now, so we don't get to go to UK's games, but it's he's going to a little bit smaller school, just Eastern Kentucky University, so it's still fun to go watch him march.
Has he injured himself recently?
Well, he does have to have the surgery on his arm.
I knew that. Yeah.
So he's taking it pretty easy. He was sick the past few days. He partied too hard this past weekend.
Oh, he didn't tell Mama that, did he?
Oh, yeah. The police had to take him to the ER. Yeah, he partied way too hard this past weekend.
It's a party foul when the paramedics show up. So
yeah, he actually yelled for help. It was so bad.
Okay, I won't ask you to tell it on the show.
Yeah, they took him in the school ambulance to the ER and made him pee before he could leave. They threatened to use the catheter. He was like, no. He was like, "Mom, I'll never do that again."
He's just saying that. So Chris says Tim Couch from Kentucky was the number one pick at quarterback. Didn't
Oh,
work out great, but pro money still spins.
no. He was so overrated. And I'm a fan. He was so overrated it wasn't funny.
Heath Schuler. Heath Schuler. So yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Amanda, we could probably talk all night. I know you
Oh,
need to
yeah.
get to bed because you got to work, and I have a radio show to record for tomorrow. If any of the loyal fans and listeners want to tune in, they can go to the Thin Line Rock Station between noon and 2 Eastern Time, and they will hear me playing some records, saying a bunch of stupid stuff. Come over there and hang out and support the Thin Line Rock Station. Very great cause. Also for mental health and first responders and military. So it's a good thing to do. But next week, who do we got? Well, I don't know what we're doing for Saturday. I haven't figured out Cheyenne's schedule yet. So I don't know if she's doing the Misfits, if I'm doing the Misfits. There's going to be a Misfits show, but what it'll be, I don't know. Let's see. Next week, okay, we have an intuitive life coach. And then we have another lady that's coming on to speak about autism in children. So next week's going to be another good show. So, and everybody, thank you, Chris. A lot goes into these. People have no idea. Like, I'll probably spend 2 hours editing the audio just for WRFN and WDJY. Because for some reason I can't play audio now before and after. I have to insert it and have to edit it, and but it is what it is. It's a labor of love. I love it. And I really appreciate the fans. So if you want to buy me a Mountain Dew, anybody, please, by all means. Mom's got me jacked up on cookies. You can keep me jacked up on Mountain Dew.
You're gonna come out like a spider monkey.
God, it's going to be an ugly crash. Ross and I didn't plug them tonight. Ross, I appreciate you at Jurg's Radio. Everybody go over there and check out his shows if you're into politics. He does one up the middle, which I think is up one way and then the other and then back. I don't know what the hell he does. It's politics. I don't do politics. Go over there and check out his stuff, and he always replays our shows. You can catch some of our old shows on there too on replay. And he's also carrying the Two Broke Witches, and of course Rainbow Radio. I don't know all of their shows and their schedule, being that's just a new project he started. So support that. Both good causes. And I mean, don't tell Ross that I think he's a good guy or anything. I don't want him to get a big head. So
we keep it a secret. He's awesome.
Yeah, we love him, but he's sometimes he's a blowhard. So. And I mean that with love, Ross, because you'll hear this back on replay and go, what the hell did you just say? So, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. I don't have any outro music, so we're just going to wave goodbye, and I'm going to figure out a button over here to push that says goodbye somehow. And it's not that button, I can tell you that. I should have figured that out the first time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and checking us out, and please thumbs up. I know the YouTube people get tired of saying it, but it does help the algorithm, and we appreciate it. But yeah, we will catch everybody Saturday, and then we'll see you on Monday. So
bye, y'all.
until then, bye everybody. Thanks for watching.